Hey, hey! We're back for another episode of Heaving Bosoms, the podcast where two friends giggle and chat about a new romance novel each week. And I have to say, I hope that your December is off to a wonderful start. At the top of this episode, instead of waxing philosophic about our book, I have to apologize. Unbeknownst to me, my microphone and I had a serious labor disagreement, and it went on strike. The sound quality on my end is not stellar. Don't worry, we settled our differences and I hired a quality control department, and it won't happen again. But I'm so sorry. I have to say, Christmas on Crimson Mountain by Michelle Major deserved better. But why don't we jump right in? Hi, Erin.
Hey, Mel.
How are you?
Great. How are you?
Excellent.
It's a damn lie. It's a lie. You couldn't even keep a straight face when you said it.
No, here's the thing. I'm great. Like, I'm super excited to do the podcast. I'm up early to do the podcast. This is my one day. Okay, you know what? Can it? Everything is relative. All right, it's not 4 a.m, okay? And I hear that for the person who got up at 4 a.m. But it's my one day on the weekend to sleep in because Michael and I trade off getting up with Ember. Oh. And so I am awake early. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry. I very much appreciate what you do for the podcast and your early rising.
And I appreciate you. Oh, it's so nice. In every other way, though, I'm sort of keeping myself together with scotch tape and dreams. Just because.
Is that not a line from Grey's Anatomy?
What?
It's definitely a line from Grey's Anatomy.
Did I appropriate that from a show I don't watch?
Well, I don't know, because you said you stopped watching it Ghost Sex, but there's definitely, I'll send it to you, there's definitely a scene where, like, Bailey is crying and she's talking about how she's holding herself together with, like, scotch tape and hopes or something like that. It's real bad.
Whoa. Well, all right.
Anyway, scotch tape and dreams.
Whatever, dude. So, I'm just saying, scotch tape doesn't hold much.
No, I think that was the point of the Grey's Anatomy episode as well.
Well, then I guess Bailey and I are just wavelengths. No, I'm just still trying to figure my life out in quasi-winter. That's all. I say to the person who is living in Alaska. Yeah, like I haven't washed my hair in 5 days.
Why?
Well, okay, so I showered, right?
Uh-huh.
Granted, it had probably been 2 or 3 days, and Michael was like, hey, so, I don't know, what your schedule's like, but maybe you want to fit a shower in? Or something like that. And I was like, oh God, I don't think I've showered in like 2 or 3 days. Yes, that is definitely going on the docket, right?
Uh-huh.
Because I don't like, it's so cold. Okay. So I showered, but then it was like 9 or 9:30 and it was fucking cold. And I've been fighting off a sickness. And so I didn't wash my hair. And now it's just been another 2 days since I showered, so it's probably been about 5 days since I washed my hair.
Do you not have heat in your house? I don't understand it being too cold to shower. Like, I do not. In fact, I feel like showers warm you up, right?
Yeah, until your head is wet and you're in your bed just shivering, or like, being warm.
What is the internal temperature of your house? That's what I don't understand.
Okay, well, we have 3 levels in our house, and our gas bill last winter was insane pants. So we are doing a little bit of, we're keeping it at around 65, unless, then we have space heaters in our room.
because, like, in the room we're going to be in. So I could set up the space heater in the bathroom, but then I have to shuttle my way from the bathroom to the bedroom in a cold hallway, and, like, my feet will freeze. It's not rational.
Do you know what
I'm telling you, it's not
last
rational.
weekend?
Oh, I don't even want to. You roughed it last weekend. That is a different story. I am living in. If I were horse camping, which I would never do in the winter.
Water. In the winter,
Ugh.
It was -4 the last night we were there. And you know,
I would never make that choice.
I couldn't shower either because there wasn't one, because there wasn't any running water. But it was also very cold. Do you remember I sent you a picture of, like, the snow-covered parking lot at my work in Alaska?
Yeah.
And the sun hadn't come up.
I remember that, you asshole.
It was only 9 a.m., so the sun was not up. And I was like, what temperature is it in Jersey again? And you immediately texted me back a picture in, like, full winter. Like, you had a winter coat and a hat on within 5 seconds of this picture. So I know you were already wearing it inside. And you were like, 57 degrees. It's like, what is wrong with you?
I'm telling you, people have actually told me I need to go to the doctor, and I have gone to the doctor, and they tell me
you need to go to the doctor. Go to a different doctor. Figure this out.
All of my levels are right. I'm not anemic. I'm not, like, my circulation is fabulous. Like, I don't know, bro. I'm just a big giant wimp. I mean, I did grow up in Hawaii, but that was maybe that was long enough to leave, like, a lasting impression of what the temperature should be all the time. I don't know.
They say if you grow up in a cold climate, like, they say that that's a real thing. Like, if you grow up in a warm climate, you have more, like, sweat glands and stuff.
I'm a sweaty Betty. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Maybe that's
real. Yeah.
You are a sweaty Betty.
I am.
So am I. And I grew up in Illinois. Like, it's not like that's...
Illinois becomes hell's vagina in the summer.
That's true. But we have winter. It's not Hawaii.
That's true.
Anyway, how much time have we wasted on this?
Quite a bit.
Minutes?
Quite a bit.
30 minutes.
Sorry, listener. I promise I'm going to shower today. I'm going to brunch, so I have to. I'm seeing other humans today, so my hair will be washed. It's going to be great. Okay. Speaking of people who don't mind the cold and choose the cold, that is where our novel is set this week. I can't remember the name of the novel. I can only remember what I've been calling it.
Wait, I know what you've been calling it, but it is called Christmas on Crimson Mountain.
On Crimson Mountain.
By Michelle Major.
I, however, have been calling it Breast Cancer Survivor and the Beast.
Fair. Because I definitely have some notes where I'm like, is this Beauty and the Beast? This really seems like it to me. So you're not wrong.
Yeah. So Crimson Mountain. We've got our lady protagonist is April. She is a yoga instructor and breast cancer survivor and former wife to some Hollywood producer who was a dick and left her during her cancer treatments, which is like, rough.
Right. Yeah. It sounded like because of her cancer treatments, like he was like, ugh, this is too much for me.
No
like,
funsies.
I can't do this anymore. Anyway, bye.
Yeah. So she is heading up to a cabin with two little girls in the back. She's got Shay, who's 5, and Rainey, who's 12. Their mother has just died of breast cancer, and
she's also April's best friend. So the mom,
one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was like her treatment friend.
Right.
But I don't think that they'd seen each other for like a while.
Well, she willed the kids to her.
Yeah, but she tried. Okay, so she tried to will the kids to, or she talked to her sister about it, and her sister is a monster,
right?
And was like, "I'll take the little one, but I don't want like the shitty teenage one."
Right.
So if that's fine with you, then cool. And so the mom was like, no, I don't think so. Instead, I'm going to send them off to my friend April, But April's like, I can't keep them, but I'm just keeping them over the holidays, and then I'll send them back to their monster of an aunt who doesn't want the broken one. She only wants the sweet one. Go fuck yourself. Okay.
Yeah. So, April, breast cancer survivor, just lost her friend.
And she's heading up. Well, got divorced like a while ago. But like hasn't had any interest in romance or bodies or orgasms since then.
Right. I don't know. What I'm saying is she's got a lot going on. There's a lot happening with April.
Yeah, you know what? I think that's like the hallmark of this whole book is
a
like just there
on.
is a lot.
Right.
And usually it's not necessarily even intersecting. Mm-mm. It's just happening. Mm-hmm. So April is heading up to a cabin that her former starlet friend owns near Aspen. Sarah, sure.
I get a feeling that this wasn't the first Crimson Mountain book. I did not look this up. But
no,
I assume Sarah Travers and Josh, who are her friends, made up the first Crimson Mountain book. Because she kind of references them in a like, wow, their love is so perfect sort of way.
Yeah. Well, and this is part of the small town love series or something like that. Mm-hmm. So I don't know which book it is, but it's not the first. Okay, so April is going to take care of this cabin as a favor to Sarah because this reclusive writer is coming up to use it for 2 weeks to try to finish a book. She arrives, she's hoping that he's not there yet, and she gets there, gets the girls like into her teeny tiny caretaker's cabin, and they, I don't know, Shay like squeals in delight and runs to the cabin or something that a 5-year-old would do. And she heads in with the groceries to the main cabin. She sees this, she gets startled by this like tall, dark figure standing at the front window, and he says something to the effect of, "They can't be here.
They have to go.
They have to go."
Which, okay, let me back up a little bit because this is a segment. This is a segment. See, here's a segment. We're talking about whether we should have segments. Here's one. It's called. The segment is called "April is a Terrible Employee." Erin McCarthy. If you are going to your job and you are going to bring 2 orphans with you, you tell your boss. You can't just like be like, if somebody at work showed up with 2 orphans, you would be like, what are those orphans about?
Yeah, oh hey, did you bring puzzles for them?
Yeah, I noticed there were orphans in your workplace. Like, I just feel like... And she's like, I don't want to tell Sarah yet, or she will worry about me, and she'll ask questions. And it's like, yeah, she'll ask questions. Like, you're doing a job, and you brought with you 2 children for the week. Mm-hmm. Like, of course. Anyway, I completely understand why Connor, our hero, the tall, dark, and handsome man in the main cabin, was a little surprised that there were 2 children with her. That's all I'm saying.
No, absolutely. Especially because it was billed as like a serene, quiet, thing. Like, 5-year-olds are not conducive to serenity nor quiet.
But his reaction is off the chain crazy.
It is. And it is abrupt. Like, the very first words out of his mouth are, "They have to go." Okay, and I really think he said it like that.
Yeah, okay. So she sees him. He's just like a figure. She gets startled, drops the groceries or whatever. All right. No kids. This is how I imagine this puts. Connor Pierce growled those 2 words as soon as the willowy redhead walked into the kitchen. Maybe he should have waited to speak until she'd spotted him standing in front of the window. Unprepared, she jumped in the air, dropping the bag of groceries as she clutched one hand to her chest. Her wide brown eyes met his across the room, a mix of shock and fear in her gaze. Scaring a woman half to death was a new low for Connor, but he couldn't stop. "They need to go," he snapped, his fists clenched at his side. "Now!" Like, I just feel like he's like, wow, I really scared her. Like, maybe I should tone it down. Like, this is a new low for me. I shouldn't be scaring women in darkened kitchens. "They need to go." Like, he's just, like, growling, fists clenched, like...
super. I mean, and she bruised his apples as a result. She just dropped everything.
Yep.
Serves him right, frankly. But then, what I find really weird about this interaction is that she just, like, she walks straight up to him, and a moment later, he turns to find that she's, like, toe-to-toe with him. And not in a, you know, be a person kind of way, like you might expect. Instead, it's like, they're orphans, I can't, their mom died, or bleh, like, you know, it's like pleading with him almost. And in my brain, if I'm going to plead with someone who I don't know and also just made me pee myself out of fright, I am going to do it from across the room and not, like, if I'm going to get up in somebody's face and be like, don't come at my kids, I will come toe-to-toe, abso-fucking-lutely. But, I don't know, this interaction, I just didn't get it, other than being a vehicle for them to pheromone at each other.
Right.
Because that's, like, most of their attraction, in my interpretation.
Okay, it was mostly, like, physical attraction between these two. Like, they kept saying they were attracted to each other on, like, a emotional personality level, but I never, like, saw it. Like, the book just kept telling me that they were, and I was just like, but they haven't really talked at all.
Well, and I can... Totally. Well, and I can see, like, why he might be attracted to her on an emotional level, because as a beast... he keeps on just dropping her in shit and like verbally punching her, and she just sort of takes it because she read a couple of news articles and knows that he's broken.
Right. So she says in this conversation, she goes, "You don't look like the photo on your website." He says, "That picture was taken long ago." And then the internal monologue for him is, back when he was overweight and happy and his heart hadn't been ripped out of his chest, when he could close his eyes and not see a car engulfed in flames, not feel his own helplessness like a vice around his lungs. And we learned that his wife and children 3 years ago died in a fiery car accident where he was, I think, driving the car, or at least in the car. And I wrote, this book is a smidge heavy. My note was like, all right, there's a lot going on here.
There's a lot going on. Well, and here's the thing. I don't necessarily, fault him for his response. I don't know how I would react if I was thrown from a car and Michael and Ember were burned to death inside and I couldn't get to them, right? But
we'll talk about it. Okay, so...
yeah, okay.
So he's basically like, no kids. He identifies her as a sexy woman in this monologue.
This willowy redhead.
Let's see. The afternoon light pouring over her. She looked too young and innocent. He'd never seen anything as creamy as her skin. This skin creaminess thing returns many
I don't like
times.
it.
He loves talking about how creamy she is, which is very...
He's going to be putting lotion on it soon, that's all I'm saying.
Good work. So he has the sudden urge to trace his finger along her cheek, blah, blah, blah. So this is the first conversation they have. They say probably 5 things back and forth. And his internal monologue is, although he knew it to be untrue, he'd come to believe that he could hold on to the memory of his wife and son tightly and keep himself cut off from physical contact, blah, 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 blah. But the fact that this woman, a stranger, made him want to change was almost as terrifying as the deadline looming over his head, his novel deadline. He took a step back from her. And it's like, so this happened 3 years ago. He hasn't seen a sexy woman in 3 years because there's literally nothing that happens in this conversation that she... You know what I mean? Like,
I know, I hear you.
There's no reason why she would make him want to change. He's like, oh wait, there's sexy ladies out there? I need to change. Like, I need to warm up. I need to thaw this ice. You know?
That's right. That's right. I gotta warm these hands up so I can trace some cheekbones.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, so I had a hard time with this whole, like, description of his 3 years because we're asked to believe that this man, after some sort of period where his friends and family attempted multiple times to reach out, he was just like, fuck that and fuck you. I have sold our home that we shared together, and I've purchased myself a small apartment in North San Francisco, I think. San Francisco, yeah. And San Francisco. Yeah. And then I guess like in the age of HelloFresh, he never left again. Like,
yeah, that's the thing. Like, I was on board for like, oh, he cut off his friends and family, and he was a dick to them, and they stopped trying. Like, I was on board for that, but I don't know. We'll get to it. Like the things he talks about, like that he hasn't like talked to another person in 3 years. Like later they go into town, and he was like, I haven't gone into a town in 3 years.
Right.
I'm like, really?
Civilization.
Like, you didn't. I don't understand. Like. 3 years and you haven't been to a town? Like, I don't want to be... I know people grieve differently, but, like, maybe he hasn't seen a sexy woman in 3 years. Like, maybe that's accurate. I don't know.
Right. Maybe he just got some weights in his house, because that's the other thing.
He certainly worked out a lot.
He was Pudgy McGee when he was happy and befamilied. And now, since then, because his whole interpretation is, I should have been strong enough to get my nearly broken back off of the guardrail upon which I landed, and army crawled to lift my wife and son out of the already burning car. I get it. I had very irrational...
Yeah.
No, I do too. I had very irrational responses to, like, my own grief when my dad died. So his whole thing is, I will now be... just a slab of muscle. Get ready, everyone. So I think he got himself a treadmill and some weights and turned himself into a slab of muscle.
Like, I don't know. Like, I don't want to be... I'm sure this is how some people grieve. Like, I'm sure that some people are like, you know, okay, I need to exercise my ass off so I don't think about this. I'm sure that happened out in the world. But I feel like the overwhelming majority of people, like, in my life, like, just anecdotally, like, I've never been like, ooh, you look really sexy. Was that the loss of your best friend? Like, I've never been like, you know, like... I've never seen somebody get really, really fit after a huge loss in their life. I feel like it's usually the opposite. It's like, oh, you put on 20. Was that the loss of your mom? Like, you know, like that. That makes more sense to me, but I'm sure this exists out in the world. I've never seen it.
I hear where you're coming from. Okay, so I was a vegetarian when my dad died, and shortly thereafter, I quite literally shoved my fist into the breast of an entire rotisserie chicken standing at the refrigerator in the kitchen. So we all grieve differently is what I'm saying.
Well, you and I are different. We're the same. I just mean we're different from this. Like, we know how we grieve. That true. Is with food.
Whoa. Boy.
I'm sure these people are out there in the world.
Yeah, totally.
All right,
Okay, so by the end of the conversation, he's like, he has thawed a tiny bit, mostly because of her curves. Or lack thereof. And he's like, okay, they can stay, but they have to be really quiet. I can't know that they're here.
Right.
Silent children. Make it happen. And so she's like, I'll do that. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, Mr. Beast. I'll see you soon. Bye. Like, I'll come back to cook your meals and see you never. And so she goes back to the cabin.
Right.
The bitty cabin.
So he's in like a big luxury cabin, and they're in kind of, her and the girls are in kind of like a caretaker cabin. I don't know if you already
correct.
Said that. She also has, like, excuse me if I'm wrong here, but she also has an apartment in town, right?
Yes.
They're like 10 miles out of town.
It's a studio apartment.
Yeah. So she could, if she wanted, just be like, oh, the girls will stay at my apartment. Like, we'll stay there. That I didn't understand that. I'm like, she could commute 3 times a day into town. It's like 15-minute drive, right?
No, I understood it was much longer, and it was really snowy. Like, this cabin is supposed to be remote, but okay.
All right.
So, anyway, the girls slayed me every single time. I just want that noted for the record. Okay, so Erin and I were texting before this, and this is one of those books where I didn't necessarily enjoy it. However, I really enjoyed watching myself have reactions to things that also squeak me out. Like, every time these two people who can't really talk to each other because of their own issues like, got all up and in each other's business and stuff, and, like, you know, their walls started coming down, the intellectual side of me was like, this, I don't know if this actually checks out. You know, like, I don't know if this is a natural progression of what just happened. Well, not to mention that I really don't like a beast. I really don't like it. And yet, there is a big piece of me that loves fixing people. Especially if they have magic penises.
I mean, I like that kind of a narrative too, but like, it didn't make me feel anything. Like, I understood that this man was sexy. I was physically down with this hero.
Totally. Okay.
Emotionally, like, I just didn't see it. It's just like here's the other problem. So while they're still in this conversation, which we will move on from it, but she's like, "Hey, you won't even know that the kids are with you, blah blah blah." So she's like, "You won't even know they're here." Grabbing the empty cloth sack from the counter, she started past him. He reached for her, the movement so quick that it startled her. She doesn't know this guy. She's literally never met him. He just scared her. He's just been like, "Don't kid." Reached for her, the movement so quick it startled her. She stared at the place where his fingers encircled her wrist, warmth seeping through the layers she wore. It was odd, because for such a cold man, his touch almost burned. "I'll know you're here," he said, a rough voice, a scrape across her senses. "But keep the girls away from me." "I will," she promised. Something in his tone told her blah, 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 blah. And then she basically has to, like, rip herself away from him. And he does this several times throughout the book. And
yeah, he's always grabbing her by the wrist in order to stop her from going past him. And I was not comfy with it.
I understand, like, in theory where that's sexy. But I think this is a personal thing where I've been in the relationship where it's like a constant, I'm going to grab hold of you and make you listen to me sort of thing. And it was not a good situation. And every time he did that, I was just like, get the fuck away from me. Like, do not let go of her. Like, I did not like that. And that made him not that attractive.
Yeah, I mean, if it had been one thing where he gently, you know, stopped her on the wrist with his fingers and, like, sexily said, "Of course I'll know you're..."
Yeah, sure.
But, like, the girls I shouldn't know are on the planet.
Right.
Then that would be better. But, like, the wrist grab.
But also they just met. They literally just met. It's like, you know, if you know somebody and they know you and they know that you have to stand there and listen to this because, you know, like, I get there can be a dynamic where that's okay. But, like, they literally just met. It's not okay to grab somebody that you've never met before. It's not okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and that's like a through line as their relationship progresses. He hasn't wanted to touch anyone because in his brain, you said this, not having physical contact with other humans will help him remember what it was like to touch his wife and son. And it will, like, keep their memory more fresh in his brain, which, again, sure, grief is a weird thing. But he just cannot help himself. He has to touch this woman in one way or another. Like, she comes back to the cabin a while later, and she burns herself on something, and so he crosses the room. She's making breakfast. He's shirtless because he's just been working out, and so, you know, sweat glistening, pheromones just emanating, right? And he crosses the room to grab her wrist and force it under the tap. And again, it's like really like a rough movement that I was kind of eked out by. Yeah. And she was too, like, her whole body stilled, but then her body started responding to his and, like, all the things. And he was just like, and his internal monologue is, "It's so weird, I never want to touch other people, but I have to touch this woman." And I'm like, but you have to get consent. You have to, like... You gotta make sure it's okay with her.
Not to mention, like, the reason he put her hand under the faucet was that she had just burned herself in a very minor way on a pan or something like that. And he's like, "You've just burned yourself. You need to run it under cold water." And she's like, "No, that's not medically a thing." She doesn't say that, but she's like, "No, I don't need to." And he's like, "You will run it under cold water." And, like, like, your skin will blister. I'm like, you're not, that's not a thing. So, like, she's right on that. Like, she doesn't need to... You know, it's not like we're not in Bad Boys Undercover where she's like refusing medical care for 3 torso bullets. Like, you know, and it's like, you need to do this.
Well, but then, Erin,
Uh-huh.
she looks at him in a meaningful way, and he's like, "What do you know about me?"
Oh, right.
Because
it's not normal.
because the burn set him off in a way because he watched his family cremated on live stream. So it's not super excellent for either of them.
So we had a conversation about, like, can we make fun of this book because it's so heavy, and she's a breast cancer survivor and he's a widower, and we're like, yeah, because we're sensitive people and we understand what to make fun of about it. And then you say things like, you watched his family cremated on live stream. Like, I cannot help you if our one listener gets mad about that.
I know. I was just trying to figure out a different way to say burned alive.
There's a lot.
Because it's so heavy. It's so heavy. I'm uncomfortable with so heavy. Okay.
So,
also,
he's not acting like a human when he's like, what do you know about me? Like, have you ever, we've both been in periods where there's like an awkward amount of grief in our lives. Like,
yeah.
I've never thought about going up to somebody and being like, do you know what I'm going through? Like, tell me back to me the things that I'm going through. Like, it's just a very weird thing. So she's just like...
And she's like, I read some news reports, but that's all.
Right, but then, okay. But then he, like, wants her to detail it. Like, he's put her hand under the faucet. He says, what do you know about me? He asks through gritted teeth. And she's like, the news reports, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, what did they tell you?
Yeah.
And she's like, your wife and son were with you and they died in the car accident and blah, 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 and they were killed. And then he's like, we all should have died in that wreck. I was like, what?
Yeah, again, very understandable response. I get that.
But why are you telling this woman? You don't know her. Like, it's very awkward.
Well, but that's part of his internal monologue. Is like, and here's the thing. I sort of understood where he was coming from. Because as a reader, you're privy to all of his thoughts. I could not bridge the gap between him and her, however, because every single time, at least in the beginning, every single time he thought about opening up, he just thought all his thoughts and then gruffly, like, left the room. Mm-hmm. He never said it out loud to her. So... I
thought some of the things he was doing, like this particular conversation, I thought was very mean. Like, yeah. I think it's really mean and manipulative that he was like, April, tell me back to me what happened to me and my family. Like, that's a horrible position to put her in. Like, that was really mean. And he does it several times with several different people, mostly April. So he then says, like, so why aren't you? And she's like, okay, this is what I know anyway. I'm going to make you some eggs, and that's my job. And he's like, why aren't you asking me more questions about it? Like, why aren't you asking me details about it? And she's like, do you want to talk about it? And he's like, no. And she's like,
except
well, that's
on
why...
the inside.
Yeah, and she's like, well, that's why I'm not asking you about it. And I'm like, sure seems like you want to talk about it, dude. Like, you could talk about anything. But instead, you're just like, what do you know about my life? Like, anyway.
Yeah.
So one night, so there's like breakfast and then there's dinner, and she makes him dinner, and they're kind of talking. I think this is the dinner conversation, actually. She's making him dinner where they're talking about...
I don't know, something, but he also pulls a beast where he's like... She's like, okay, I'm going to go head back to the girls.
This is where I'm going.
And he's like, what if I want you to sit with me, though? And she's like, I will then.
I will. And my note was literally... You will join me for dinner.
You will join me for dinner. That is correct.
Robbie Benson growling into, you will join me for dinner. And I'm like, what is going on? And then she's like, well, do you want me to? And he's like, no. And she's like, all right, I'm a go then. Like,
bye.
I don't know what you want, man. I mean, he's like thinking after that, and he's like, he had nothing to offer a woman like April, a woman so full of light and peace. And I wrote, like, he literally knows nothing about her. Like, he literally at this point knows he has not asked her one thing about her life. They haven't had any, like, nice conversations at all.
I don't even think she's told him that she's a yoga teacher, but I think that her pheromones just emanate light and peace, bro.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it's an elemental level between these two. you know.
Yeah, maybe. And I think that's what... I kind of wish this book had been less love at first sight and more like a growing, like an ice breaking or something like that. Because it was very like they saw each other and they were into it immediately. And then they kind of had to fight that the whole time. And I wish it was the opposite. I wish they were, you know, it like grew over time because of their issues. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, I don't know. I think it would have been a little bit more jarring. Like, there would have needed to be an extra 200 pages of cray to get from he grabbed my wrist and super freaked me out to I'm in love, let's get married.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's that. So anyway, they do some more. Okay, so then she takes the girls outside and asks them to be very, very quiet while building a snowman or something.
Mm-hmm.
And he leaves his desk, presses his ear against the window pane, and, like, strains to hear what's going on with the girls.
Yeah. You can kind of hear Shay laughing, and he's like, ugh.
Yeah, and he's like, I can't believe this. They're supposed to not exist. So, is that when he goes down to the cabin later on, or...
I thought this was when they went to town. Let's see.
That's what I mean. He goes to the cabin,
Yeah,
and
okay.
Shay opens the door.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's
Right,
like,
so-
shut those children up.
Yeah. So he goes to the cabin to talk to April. Shay answers the door, and she's like, there's a mean man next door who doesn't like kids, so we have to be very quiet. So we're going down to town to get some puzzles and games so that we can play inside games so that we don't upset the mean man.
Mm-hmm.
And because she's the best.
Uh-huh.
And so then by the end of the conversation, Shay, the 5-year-old, has charmed him because Shay charms everyone.
Right.
And she sort of strong arms him. Well, she asked him to go to town with them, and he says yes. And
Right.
April's like, WTF, bro? Like, we're going to have a nice day. Are you capable of having a nice day? Because if not, you are not actually invited. And he was like, no, I could be a person. And he goes and gets his coat, and then he is the opposite of a person.
Right. And she keeps talking about, like, this whole trip to town, like, on their way and stuff. She keeps talking about how, like, she really wants to talk to him about what happened, and she really wants to help him heal, and, like, she can't really resist, like, wanting to bring up what happened to him and his family. And the whole time I'm just like, leave him alone. Like, why do you want to, like, this is a man you just met. Like, why do you want to be like, so, do you want to do some, like, therapy sessions about, like, it was just very weird. But anyway, so... They're going to town. They're going to get some hot chocolate.
They go into they go to a toy store, and he's like, well, so Shay grabs his hand, and he goes to pull away, and then he's like, no, she's a 5-year-old, I can't do that. And they go to the toy store, and he's like, cannot go into a toy store with laughing children, because, I mean, understandably, this actually does make sense to me.
Yeah, I got that.
It reminds him of his roughly 5-year-old son's laugh.
That makes sense.
He's like, yeah.
I understand.
So he's like, I'm going to go to the sporting goods store. Bye.
Yes.
I
understand
and I thought that
not
was a
being
very
able,
mature choice.
Yes. To go into a toy store. I get that. I don't understand not being able to go to a town. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Like, not being able to go into a toy store with children and have them be all around, especially around Christmas time, like, that makes a lot of sense to me. Not being able to, like, go get a sandwich at Subway after 3 years because there might be a person inside is a little for me.
So they go and find him at the sporting goods store, and they're like, we're going to get some hot chocolate and go ice skating. You should come.
Mm-hmm.
And April basically is like, you need to stop being a dick nose because you're ruining the day for the girls. And he's like, okay, sure, I'll stop that. And then he doesn't. He goes to the hot chocolate store with them. The hot chocolate store? He goes to a cafe that her friend owns. And they get some cookies, and he stands about being gruff and awful.
He's so awful.
And...
like, they have a conversation about, like, what's your favorite Christmas song?
Uh-huh.
And she's like, Shay's favorite Christmas song is Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and Rainy's is blah, blah, blah. And Rainy's like, mine is Silent Night. And she's like, what's yours, Connor? And Connor's like, I don't have one. And, like, she's like, okay, well, like, maybe you're not, like, a rocking around the Christmas tree kind of guy, but maybe. And he just cuts her off, and he's like, I can't even do
holy
it.
night.
Oh, holy night. God damn it. Like, let her finish the sentence. Like,
Yeah.
and it's a legit pick. That's my favorite Christmas song.
Mine too, actually.
Really? Man,
yeah, I used to perform it at church all the time.
You sing?
Yes.
I had no clue.
I mean, I haven't in years, but like
Didn't
not performance, but yeah.
Like what else about like okay, so we've been friends for a little over 5 years.
I mean, I'm like, we're onions, Erin. We just
I know,
keep
but
on
like,
peeling back the layers.
I just feel like there's so many things I don't know about you.
Here's one.
This is fallout from me finding out that you were bisexual at your wedding. This is fallout from that, where I'm like in pictures at your wedding, and I'm like, ting. Wait, what? Anyway.
Well, here's one. Related to singing.
Uh-huh.
I used to lead the 4th of July parade on horseback.
What?
With, like, holding the giant American flag in, like, the saddle flagpole. I used to sing the national anthem, and then my horse and I would be the lead of the parade. We would go 2 times around the town. Okay. Because the town was 400 people.
So many questions. Okay, podcast over. We're done talking about this. Okay, so, all right. What kind of parade is this? The
4th of July parade.
Yeah, I understood the holiday, but, like, I've never seen somebody on horseback singing the national anthem at the start of a parade live. That's not a thing.
Oh, people always sing the national anthem before a parade, I thought.
But
yeah, so my horse and I...
the parade?
No. So my horse and I would ride up to, like, the staging area.
Understood.
They would hand me a microphone. Okay. I would sing the song a cappella, and then we would fuck off and go around the town 2 times.
I thought you were in the parade constantly singing the national anthem.
Oh, sweet Lord, no. That's not how that works.
Also, how were you chosen for such an honor? Like,
it's a very small town.
How?
I used to sing, like, at church all the time. I would, like, every single year, for a while, I would sing "Oh Holy Night" or some other song at the Christmas Eve thing. I have pictures. I was, like, 16, 17.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I was on the equestrian team when my school had one.
What?
For a little while.
You've been a horse girl this whole time?
Yeah.
I mean, again, doesn't surprise me, but, like...
I just talked about horse camping, bro. But at the top of this episode.
What? Did you?
I said I wouldn't go horse camping in the winter, but if I were horse camping, then sure.
Maybe the problem in our friendship is not that you're not sharing, it's that I'm never
Is that you're not listening.
Yeah. All right, fair.
Okay, back to the thing. So then they go ice skating.
With Erin and Mel. All right. Okay.
So they go, tangent over. They go ice skating.
Shop, yeah.
No, doesn't he fuck off again? Isn't he like, I can't even have hot chocolate. I hate hot chocolate. Yeah, I hate children and I hate cookies.
She, like, tells the owner of the cafe. The owner of the cafe is like, what is that guy's deal? Like, why is he such a dick? Like,
why
he's
is
sexy,
he a
but
cretin?
why a terrible person? And she's like, his family died in a car accident. And then the cafe owner, I love this. She's like, call me later. Because she wants the whole
That would be my response.
She's like,
call me immediately.
So, but then she doesn't. But anyway, the coffee shop, the whatever cafe is too much for him. So he walks away.
To freeze in an alley.
I don't know what his plan is because he's not wearing a hat or gloves. It's very cold.
He has no plan. He has no plan. Connor has no plan.
I don't know. So they go ice skating without him.
Yes. And then he joins up at some point and sees that Rainey, the 12-year-old, the sullen, really, upset, broken one, is, like, hanging on for dear life at the side of the ice rink. Mm-hmm. So he goes to help her, and he jumps over the rail and helps her off the ice. And then he's like, hey, do you want to talk to me about what's going on? And bless her heart. Oh, my God, these girls. These girls did things to me all throughout the book. I was just a hot mess with these girls. And I could not understand the... April, I wanted to shoot her in the face most of the time. Mm-hmm. Every time she was like, I can't keep them. I can't have them. I shouldn't. I'm like, what the fuck is your problem?
Why? Like, why?
Yeah, there's literally nothing in your life that will keep you from, like, I can't.
Her justification is that she is a breast cancer survivor and their mother died of breast cancer and she doesn't
That wasn't her actual justification. I mean, that's what comes out later. Mm-hmm. But her whole thing is like, I've kept my life so that I can leave at a moment's, like, I don't want things that tie me down, and I'm like, I couldn't.
But at the same time, like, she keeps saying this, like, I can't keep these girls. I have a very busy schedule as a yoga teacher in a mountain town. Like,
right.
All right. Segment number 2, being a yoga teacher with Erin McCarthy, certified 200-hour YTT yoga teacher. It's not a busy job. It's not. Like,
not if you don't own a studio.
Yeah, fair. She used to own a studio.
Yeah.
Our one listener might be a yoga teacher, and that one listener might be like, it is a busy job. But it's not...
It is if you have, like, 5 different studios that you teach at, and you teach, like, 5 classes a day. That's a busy job.
It's not the type of job that precludes you from adopting these 2 children. I don't understand.
No.
Maybe you're not making enough money. That makes sense, because they make shit for money. But, like...
Yes.
Okay, anyway.
All right. So...
Oh, but what I was going to say is I'm sorry I did this.
No
she
problem,
keeps saying
no
this,
problem.
but Connor keeps being like, you should keep them. And I'm like,
you
what
have to
out of
keep
her
them.
life? Like, why is she in his life? Why is he in her life? Like, I don't understand.
That's only after he's been inside her, which of course makes him know best.
Okay, all right, we're at the ice rink. Okay.
Okay, so she's sitting next to Rainey, and Rainey, oh my god, Rainey's like, we were at an ice rink when Shay was really young. My mom slipped and hurt her wrist, and at the doctor's appointment to fix her wrist, she asked about a lump, and that's how they found out about her breast cancer. And so I'm just terrified that somebody is going to fall and hurt themselves and then die. Because sweet baby angel, that's definitely how a 12-year-old grief brain works. And, so he actually super steps up, and he apparently is the Rainy Whisperer for the rest of the book. Because he's just like, you know what? I'm going to go get some skates, and we're going to have a great time, and blah, 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 blah. And by the end, like, Rainy's the best skater, and it's a great time. But then they're on the way home.
Whoa.
Oh, do they kiss?
Yeah, like
they kiss.
Back it up.
Yeah. I forgot about the kiss because it came out of nowhere.
But there's also a lot of, like, with Rainy, he keeps saying things like, you know, everybody falls when learning to skate, Rainy. A few bruises and you'll be fine. Like a lot of, like, we fall down, but we have to get up again. A lot of, like, real heavy-handed metaphors that happen.
Which he can't follow on his own. I mean, the story of Connor's goddamn life.
And yes, they kiss. And I liked this kiss. I thought it was, maybe I was just so starved. Maybe I was so parched in the desert of this book. I was just like, can something, like, sentimental kind of happen between these two?
Yeah, explain the kiss, because I remember the Bangtown times, but I don't necessarily remember this kiss.
I would not describe that as Bangtown, but we'll get there. So... yeah, they're, like, together at the side of the rink, and they're watching Rainy and Shay. He kind of, like, tucks a little strand of hair behind her ear or something like that. And he, like, leans in, and she, like, takes off her hat or something and says she has, like, bad hair. And he's like, you look beautiful. And let's see here. His hand slid around the back of her neck and pulled her closer. Nerves zipped around in her stomach as she gazed into his dark eyes. I don't want to fight with you. His lips brushed against hers, soft for a man with so many hard angles. I work for you, Connor. Which, fair. He nipped at the edge of her mouth. You work for Crimson Ranch. You're the guest, she whispered. And he says something real gross later, like, I like being the guest. Like, it's gross.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's see here. Here. Then the smooch. It was reckless. And... she needed to kiss Connor Pierce like she needed her next breath. It was everything she'd imagined and nothing she expected. His lips were gentle and searching and blah, 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 blah. That kiss goes on for a very long time. I don't understand why they want to kiss each other, but I thought this kiss was fine.
Well, that's the thing. I don't think I would want to kiss anyone who behaved like that day. I mean, I guess he redeemed himself a bit with Rainy, but, like, she had to do so many rounds of jazz hands in order to keep the girls happy, because they think that he just hates them. And Rainy in particular is like, nobody wants me. My aunt doesn't want me. my mom left me.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want me because you're sending me back to my aunt.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, this guy doesn't even want us to exist. So, like, she is having to do so much management because
Mm-hmm.
Connor cannot see past his own asshole.
Right.
Ugh. So anyway,
the only thing that bothered me about this kiss was the cover of the book showed like a very flirty couple, both on ice skates in the middle of like a snowy outdoor ice rink pond, and she's kind of like laughing and he's kind of like nuzzling into her neck. That is not what happens.
That is not what happens.
That is not a scene from the book, and I was very disappointed. Okay. Then they find a kitten. You missed the kitten.
Oh, God, I missed the kitten. So
There's
they find this
little
kitten, which becomes problematic later.
And
And,
freezing to death under a garbage can. And they want to keep it.
And so they find a 24-hour vet, apparently, because it's got to be like 8 p.m. I don't know.
There's lots of 24-hour vets. That's a thing.
Okay, cool. And so then they take the kitten and they go home, and it's great. But then they almost have a wreck on the way home.
I was like, you forgot the wreck. Okay, good.
Yeah, so they almost have a wreck, and Connor obviously freaks the fuck out because, again, that also makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. And she's like, this is different. This isn't the same as the wreck with you. And I'm like, stop it. He's allowed to have like a total PTSD reaction to this.
Oh, yes.
Like,
he absolutely
is. This is very different than the one with you and your kids because no one died in a fiery like accident. And he's just like, get me home. Like, I want to go home.
Get me home immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he disappears for 2 days. She goes in and cooks for him. Again, fair. I was totally down with this response, except that it's 2 days out of 2 weeks that they have together where they're supposed to fall in love and fuck.
Fair.
Okay.
Okay.
So she shows up and he's like, I've stopped hibernating now and I'm ready to put my hands all over your body. And she's like, yeah, that checks out. We've spent no time together and I haven't seen you in 2 days because you've been avoiding me. But why don't I cook you dinner and then you come on to me and I take you back to my cabin where the 2 orphans I have with me.
You are skipping so much.
Am I?
Yes.
All right.
I'm sorry. But like, she's cooking for him and he like appears out of nowhere and she like drops a thing and there's like glass on the floor. And she's cleaning up the glass. Oh,
that's right.
Because she's a grown-up woman who can handle that. And he walks over to her, picks her up against her will, and just walks her over to the side of the room and puts her down and is like, I will clean it up. You woman, me man, I clean up glass. Glass dangerous. Like,
right.
And that really bothered me. I was like,
and she's like,
job.
You can't pick me up like that. And he's like, well, I did, so... Bleh.
And I'm sure this is me, but I read that 2 pages 2, 3, 5 times. I cannot find the sentence where she drops anything.
Oh.
And suddenly there's just shards of glass on the floor, and I'm like, surely I missed something. I went back once, I went back twice, I went back 3 times. I went sentence by sentence, and I'm like, I cannot figure out where she dropped a glass thing. It's probably in there.
Both of us got the message.
Yeah, I guess. But I was just like, what? And then like later... in the same passage, they refer to they talked about naming the kitten, and then, like, later in this passage, they're like, oh, blah, 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 Jingle's gonna do this and that. I'm like, where was the part where they named this kitten Jingle? Like, was that also cut? Like, it's very... Anyway.
There were 2 days where they were just hanging out without Connor. Like, they had to do something. So, is this when he... Like, since they've already been touching up on each other?
Yeah, I mean, you're right about the next thing that happened. I just wanted to talk about him, like, grabbing her against her will and, like, moving her. I just thought that was really imposing and not okay.
Yeah, completely. I was on the same page with you on that one. That's probably why I wiped it from my memory. So, he then, starts kissing up on her neck and stuff, and she's like, I have to get back to the girls. And he's like... Well, I mean, but
sex.
We could definitely do it.
And he's also and she's like, you're my muse. I've been writing my book so fast because of you. Like,
oh yeah, he's finally writing again, which bleh. And so she then invites him. So they leave the 4-family reunion cabin to go to the 2-bedroom cabin where their room is right next door to the 2 sleeping orphans.
But it's okay,
Which-
Mel, because the idea that this sex could wake up anyone is this was like 2 gentle silent thrusts and a shudder. Like, that's what happened.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so I will say this. I really liked the lead up to the sex. Because she's like, I haven't had any sex since my husband. And he's like, well, I haven't been with anybody since my wife. And she's like, okay, why don't I put it this way? I haven't been with anybody since my cancer. And he stops everything and he sits down on the bed and he's like, okay, what do you need to tell me? And
It's very nice.
It was really nice. And so she's like, I had a lumpectomy and there's a scar and there's this and there's that. And he's like, well, I think you're beautiful and I definitely should be inside you as soon as possible. So if you're still okay with that, why don't we just get to it? And she's like, yeah, totally.
I have one thing that really skeezed me out, and I'm sorry we're going so long, but this is a thing that I cannot. So after she tells him her breast cancer story, he starts tracing and smooching up on her breast cancer scar. All right. I think maybe because I have like some personal experience with this, like smooching up on people's scars when you're like sleeping with them for the first time, not okay. Like, that is not about you. It's like making her thing. I was just like, stop smooching up on her scar. Like, she just told you about how she got. Like, don't do that. It's not about you. It's
yeah.
Like, I don't know how to say it.
So I hear what you're saying though, because in Clover Green, Eric Fields.
Yeah, I actually
Tiffany
wrote in here,
Reese's,
it
whatever.
was so nice that her naughty holiday did not have this.
Yes.
That he did
No,
not.
it didn't. No, well, it had, she said, look, there's scars. These are my breasts. And he's like, I'm going to pay attention to your nipple and all of your pleasure centers because I still want to show you that your breasts are beautiful. He wasn't like licking her scars.
He didn't fetishize it and make it
Yes.
a thing where he's like, look how good I am at being cool with your scar. I'm so good at it that I'm gonna make it a sex thing. Like, I just was like, I don't like that. And I know that it happens a lot in movies and books, and I'm just like, it makes me just every time. Anyway, he calls her creamy again. Let's see. Yeah, a lot of scar kissing.
And then he's like, I gotta go. And, so they fall asleep, and he sneaks out.
There's no foreplay at all. It's just like, he inserts it, she shudders. I don't even know that he came, because they did not say.
Right. Yeah,
he calls her breasts milky white, which reminded me of League of Their Own. Milky white bread. You know what I'm
They don't use a condom.
No.
Because she can't get pregnant. And, I don't know. Yeah.
We know he's been celibate since his wife because he hasn't even laid eyes on a person, so I don't know.
Okay, sure. I don't know what his sexual history was before that.
Fine, yeah, you're right.
Okay, so anyway, then he sneaks out, and we cut to the girls playing outside again, and Connor comes outside, and they're so frightened of him because the girls haven't seen him, let's remind everyone, since he left the car in a huff. Now, granted, again, okay reaction, that's fine. But he comes, like, barreling out of the house, and Shay and Rainey immediately, like, cling to each other, being like, were we too loud? And he's like, no, I just wanted to build a snowman with you. And they're like, that's not you at all.
I really wanted him to be like...
this pod person?
When they were like, were we too loud? I really wanted him to be like, were we too loud? Am I right? But it didn't happen.
Yeah, so they build snowmen, and then they make cookies, and they play with Jingle, and he and April decide that they're going to make this Christmas the best Christmas ever. And then April gets super sick.
All right. we're back to
Comes
segment
out of
number
fucking
one.
nowhere.
April is a terrible
employee
with Erin McCarthy. Okay, so
yeah, so April gets some sort of stomach bug.
Right.
She does not call her boss to get a replacement.
Mm-mm.
She just doesn't show up to breakfast and lunch.
Right.
And because he's been banging it out with her, he's like, I can make some toast. That's fine. I'll scramble up an egg.
What bothers
me
I don't
want to get.
Like, she's taking care of 2 orphans.
No, she's not. At this point, the orphans are taking care of her, they're taking care of her while she's vomiting, just like their chemo patient mother did. Like, it is so fucking mean. It is so fucking insensitive. She tells, oh my god, April tells them, so the girls show up at the cabin. I'm so angry about this.
Me too. My god. I was so mad.
So they show up at the cabin, and he hears like a crash and a bang and blah, blah, blah. The 5-year-old is attempting to chop carrots. The 12-year-old is cleaning up the water she spilled somehow all over the place. And he's like, hi, what's happening? And they're like, we can't tell you. April swore us to secrecy. And he's like, no, I'm the adult here.
Yeah, I am the adult here.
The one adult now. She has told these kids, don't worry, kids whose parent died not even 3 weeks ago. I'm not dying. I'm just so ill. It looks as though I'm probably going to die. And don't tell the only other adult within an hour's drive on a windy winter road that I'm ill. Just go try to make him dinner?
Yeah. And also, like, I'm not gonna feed you guys. Like... Make fend for yourself. Like, just at least order these 2 a pizza. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, what have they been eating for 2 days? And then
cookies, probably the cookies they made.
I was like, do not take these kids. My note was
so angry.
I completely understand why April doesn't want to take these kids.
She
knows that she's a fucking mess and would be a negligent parent. So they almost like cut their hands off or whatever. Like. Making dinner. So then Connor is like, okay, let's do this together. We will make dinner for ourselves. Then I'm going to go take care of April. He nurses her back to health or whatever. The next we hear from April, she's just like, what? What happened? Where did the last 3 days go?
3 days go.
Where are you? Have you ever had a stomach bug such that you missed 3 days? Like,
no, you had dengue fever and you didn't miss 3 days.
No, I remember every moment of that. Like, I just was like, what is this sickness? Like, you weren't in a coma. Like,
right.
She honestly woke up and she's like, how many days has it been? Oh God, like
and how is that your first question? That's information that other people volunteer.
Yeah. You're like,
it was 5 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or are the children dead? Because they could be.
Right.
Like okay, so then he nurses her back to health, and she finds out he's done all these things while she's been sick, and they've like decorated and they've made soup, and he's been playing dad for a little bit here, and he's been like making Christmas happen and all this. And the whole time they're like, they put up a tree, they decorate for Christmas and blah, 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 blah. And the whole time I'm just like, if this were real life, they would all be sick. Like, if this were real life,
all of them.
They would all be sick with the worst flu ever, and they would not be able to take care of each other, and it would be a nightmare.
all of them would have double bucket syndrome, and it would be horrifying. The 5-year-old would have shat the bed at some point.
Everyone in the house is too sick, and you can't take care of each other, and it's just like everybody for themselves. Like, that's what would have happened.
Yeah. So she wakes up. She's the girls and Connor have been bonding and making Christmas happen, and she's so impressed and she's so thankful, and she's, I mean, I guess to her credit, she's like self-flagellating a little bit for putting that burden. Not enough. No.
Yeah, she needs to take a shower because she hasn't showered in like 5 days. You know the feeling. And and then he's like, can you stand? Are you able to stand on your own? And he like scoops her up and like takes her to the bath or whatever. And I'm just like, what is this illness that she can't stand? Like, what is going on?
In Outlander, Claire gets sick like this, but it's like actual somebody poisoned her kind of thing with like a bacteria.
Yeah, I remember that.
And she is legit out. It's real bad. That makes sense to me.
Because also,
this
if
nonsense.
this is 16 something, sure.
Also that.
Sure. But
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, anyway.
If this is Scotland times, right? Am I right?
Well,
Am I right?
No,
you see what I did there?
That's not Britain times. No. Listen, we're what?
You know
2
what?
hours into this podcast? I'm happy to explain to you the
Carolina.
time period that
No, never mind.
Outlander's
Never
in,
mind.
because that's Highlander times, and that's a whole different...
You're right.
It's a whole different time period than England. Highlander is its own thing.
Pardon me. Okay. Well, and actually it was revolutionary. They were in South Carolina at that point. Like, it doesn't matter.
Sure. There's Highlander times, England times, and there's also Sherlock Holmes times. And there's revolutionary times. These are the 4 time periods of romance. And medieval. Okay. All right.
Yeah, so then, like, here's the thing. Then for the rest of the book, we know that they do more sex, but there is no more sex on the page.
No,
and you know how I feel about that.
There's a little bit of foreplay, but, like, that sex was so underwhelming. It took...
Yeah, I didn't like it.
The sex paragraph was 1 paragraph. The kiss paragraph was 2. Like, if the sex takes less time than the kiss, I'm not about it. And, like, there's one point where he just kind of, like, honks her boob for a little bit, which was weird to me. Like, she's recovering from her sickness, and it just says, he held the weight of one breast in his hand, and I'm like, is that sexy?
Honk, honk.
Honk, honk. Is it heavy? Like, you just kind of, like, I don't know. I just was like, what?
Are you just cradling her breast?
Yeah.
Oh, boy. I have a question for you and perhaps the rest of our listeners. Listeners, let us know if you know about this, if this is a thing. Have you ever heard of or done this reindeer glitter, this paw print situation outside?
No.
That's not a thing? I didn't think it was a thing.
It's so hard to do, because so what he does
Where do you
he
get
goes outside
are you
and
going to a taxidermist to get, like, a reindeer hoof or a deer hoof and then geschmirking outside?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Are you just stamping?
Geschmirks some reindeer footprints outside and then sprinkles, like, red glitter all over. So
which is an eco-hazard. Don't do that, everyone. Glitter does not belong on the ground. It's a rude thing to do to nature.
I thought it was a cute idea, but I also logistically didn't understand it, because I didn't know how he got
His
the
boot prints have to be everywhere.
Yeah, unless he, like, flew out there. I don't know how he did
Right,
it.
where is his hovercraft?
Right.
These are all my questions.
Okay.
Whatever. Okay, so they do Christmas things. The girls have made them this pine cone family that's really gorgeous.
Yeah, they make a pine cone family with all of them. Then
there's about 50 pages where Connor and April keep on ribbing each other because Connor's like, you need to keep the girls, and April's like, I want him to stay with us, but I'm never going to say that out loud because he'll never stay with us.
This is another time where he grabs her and, like, forces her to listen to him. He grabs her shoulders.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
Like, and I just want to be like, you don't know her. Like, what is this based on? Like, I don't know. They also do yoga together. She does a yoga class for them, and that heals all their wounds. It was yoga heals all.
And then he freaks out and leaves. Basically.
Yeah.
It's a good way to put it, right?
You want to hear a joke?
Uh-oh.
He says in his narrative, so he's talking to the 2 girls, and he's talking about, I think he's talking to Rainey, and he's like, losing a family member makes a hole inside you, and blah, blah, blah. And Rainey's like, April's really good at filling holes. And I wanted to be like, Connor is too. I mean, kind
better
of.
at it.
Yeah, I was just like...
As far as April's narrative is concerned.
Yeah.
April's really inner monologue. Oh, God. April's inner monologue has told us that Connor is extra good at filling holes. We have not actually seen evidence of that on the page.
Right. So there's some kind of, like, Christmas party or something like that? Does he go to a party?
They do Christmas.
Yeah.
No.
Where do they meet the other people?
Yeah, great. Stop it.
Sorry.
So, so he freaks out and leaves.
How is this our longest podcast? Like, how did
I don't know,
like,
man. Well, because we went on a couple of tangents, and So
where do they go? Where do they meet these people?
So he freaks out and he leaves, and he takes his pine cone with him. And he's like, I can't stay with you. And she's like, you should stay with me. And he's like, no, never, because my wife and kid are always going to be at the center of my soul. And nobody else can be there. And so he leaves.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't say goodbye to the girls because every adult in this book fucking blows.
Mm-hmm.
So then they spend the next week moving into her studio apartment.
You missed the most important part where the Connor Pinecone person, when he leaves, is thrown into the fire.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. So Rainey... Oh, I'm sorry.
Throws it in the fireplace.
No, he doesn't do that. No. You're misremembering. So, okay.
Sorry.
So I'm sorry. We also missed the part where April officially told the girls that they have to go back and live with their absolutely awful aunt Lisa, or whatever her stupid name is. And the girls obviously freak out because they're like, I want to be with you and we want to be a family. And she's like, I can't have you because what if my cancer comes back and blah. And I'm like, respect their goddamn mom's wishes. Mm-hmm. She wouldn't have given them to another cancer survivor if she didn't think that was okay. Like, stop it. So the girls freak out and leave, and then Connor freaks out and leaves because he thinks that she should keep them, and then she's like, well, if I can't keep them unless you stay, basically. And he's like, that's manipulative and horrible. And and so he leaves too. Then the next morning, she and Rainey start chatting. They find...
Well, Shay runs away.
She runs away at some point.
In the woods.
But that was before.
Okay, all right, cool.
Yeah. That's when the cat becomes problematic because the 5-year-old goes and because this kitten quadrupled in size in 1 week. This kitten went from shivering and fitting in the palm of your hand to getting a 5-year-old lost in the woods. Mm-hmm. I don't know how that happened. Okay, so April finds out that Rainey has tossed the whole Pinecone family into the wood stove.
Oh.
They get the Pinecone family out, and Rainey's like, where's Connor's Pinecone? It's like he was never here. Oh, and April looks at Rainey and says, of course he was here. Yeah, so Connor got out his Pinecone, but didn't bother to get the rest of them out. He just took his and was like, if they don't notice and burn these alive, that's cool, because that makes total sense in his grief narrative.
It's like a souvenir from the family he was almost a part of.
So they do life things. They get set up in the like a new house, and they move, and
she's keeping them. They're staying.
She's keeping them. It's great. Then they go to a New Year's party, Erin. They go to Sarah's New Year's party.
You remember when he confronted the other guy whose wife was killed by a drunk driver? There was something there, and I know you keep saying stop it, and I don't want to talk about it, but there was something because he was a beast to those people too. And
he was awful to them too.
Kind of Christmas
they
party.
went back. They went back to the same cafe for a Christmas party a while ago. Sorry, listener.
Yeah,
we're a little bit.
Well, you can just edit this to make sense, right?
Probably not. I'm not going to do that. So then they go to a New Year's party.
Mm-hmm.
And they show
April
up.
Does.
April and the girls.
And the girls, yeah.
Right. The three of them, they go to a New Year's party. Mm-hmm. And Sarah comes up to them and is like, don't be mad. And she's like, why would I be mad at you? And then she sees Connor from across the room.
Gross.
And they make up, and he brings his Pinecone out, and he's like, I want to be a family with you and the girls, and
marry me. I loved you forever.
Well, boof. And then we go to the epilogue. And here's the thing I don't understand about the epilogue. Are you ready? Mm-hmm. It's 6 months later.
Mm-hmm.
He's on a book tour for the thing that he wrote, and it was the best thing he's ever written because of April and her magic clitoris. And so here's my thing. There's a line in the book where he's like, they got married a week after New Year's because they wanted to be a good example for the girls.
It's not a good example for those girls.
And that makes no sense to me. It would have been a bad example to move in together, or to have him move into the town for a while to date and see how things go and get to know each other on an actual intellectual and emotional level. But so that would be the bad example. The good example is to know a man for let's say 8 days total. Because when you take out the 2 days that he was,
Roughing.
being a recluse.
Yeah.
Right. And the 7 days. Then you take out the 3 days that she was sick. They haven't spoken words to each other. Except for about 7 days.
Right.
And then when you do the math on the actual minutes that they spoke during those 7 days, so she knows him for that long. Let's say 36 hours total. They've actually spoken words to each other. That's the better example, is to know a man for that amount of time, then marry him and have him move into a house with you and your brand new pair of orphans and hope that things just go great.
Yeah.
That's the better example?
I had, like, a thought when I read that where I was like, I wonder if this was a Jesus book and then was turned into a not Jesus book. You know, like, like it was rushed to the marriage at the end. I don't know. I just thought, like, maybe this was supposed to be, like, kind of a more, like, a more chaste romance. And then somebody at some point was like, throw in some sex. Like, and that's why it ended up not being.
Maybe.
But that's why I thought maybe this weird marriage happened at the end. Anyway.
I don't know. I was not down with it. Like, because again, I would have been totally cool with him moving to Colorado.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, subletting her old studio apartment.
You know
or
what?
just moving in with them.
Moving in
even.
would have been fine with me, too.
Yeah.
Not a great choice in real life, but romance novel, fine.
Yeah. Anyway, they live happily ever after.
And I assume he gets fat again, right? Like,
yeah, me too. I think so.
Yeah, I think he grows out his beard,
right up.
gets a little happy. But I don't think April would care. That's fine.
Yeah. Oh boy, Erin. I don't think I've thought about a self-love recommendation. You know what, everybody? Shower. I'm sorry. Oh boy. Guys, gals, people of all types, just force yourself to brave the cold and shower, because it's nice to your partner and it's nice to your kids and it's nice to yourself and it's nice to the world when you smell nice and look fresh. So,
okay, mine is like a do as I say, not as I do, because I really screwed this up. So,
as if mine wasn't.
Sure. Right.
It's been a week.
Well, you promised me you were going to shower today because you're going to brunch.
I am.
So that's a do as you do.
Yeah.
But I'm continuing to screw this up with abandon. So last week on Wednesday, I shoveled our driveway of snow. We had a big snowfall, and I pulled my back. I just, like, completely pulled it. And the next day I was like, man, that feels a little tweaked. But we're going out to this cabin, this, like, remote cabin. We're going cross-country skiing, and we're going to sleep on the floor in sleeping bags and -4 degree, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, I can do that.
I'm sorry.
What?
Can I just tell you how much I love cross-country skiing?
You got so intimate with your microphone for that.
I love it.
Can I just do?
I love it so much. That may have made me brave the crazy cabin that you subjected yourself to. Okay, keep going.
Well, in town here in Anchorage, if you ever come visit.
That's hilarious.
In the winter, all of the trails in town, of which we have many, are groomed for cross-country skiing. So you can just ski wherever you want to ski. But for some reason, we drove like an hour and a half to go ski, do something we couldn't do in town. But actually, we skied in like this mountain pass. It was very nice. Anyway, so I'm like, you know what? I'm good to do that, even though like I can't really sit or stand right now. So I go sleep in that cabin on the fucking ground, and I'm stupid enough to be like, maybe this will cure me because it'll straighten out my, I don't know.
Erin.
And then I went skiing the next day, and there were some hills that I was like, I may not be able to get down this. Like And David kept being like, do you need to stop because of... And I was just like, no, I'm an American badass. Like, I can do this. I'm a soldier. Like, I can do these things. And I'm like, why did I... And then the second night did this again.
Oh, my God.
And then I couldn't, move. So then I had to go to the emergency room last night.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, not last... Tonight's still tonight. So the day before today, last night. And because I couldn't, move. And they were like, you have to take it easy. And then this weekend I'm going to a different cabin to do ice skating shit. And just don't...
Erin!
I know, right? Like, I do as I say, not as I do. Here's the thing. If you're injured, don't do this. It hurts really bad now. And it's all
Erin,
my fault.
There's still time.
I know, but I've told them I'm going. And I'm just like, maybe what I'll do is I'll go and I just won't ice skate.
I mean, are there beds? Are you going with a chiropractor?
I think there's beds,
or a
but I don't think there are enough
therapist?
beds for the number of people that are going.
Well, you get one. Erin McCarthy. Don't do that thing that you always do where you're like, no, I'm good. You're not good.
Yeah, I know. So anyway, don't do that. If you're injured, just stop doing shit. Stop it.
Erin,
Get medical
I'm telling
attention.
you, there's still time.
Yeah, I'm going. I'll just bring my skates and see what happens.
Honestly, don't bring your skates.
I won't do anything. I'll just skate around.
You know what? You're going to end up doing a fucking pirouette with your leg all the way up over your head.
It's not.
Yeah, you can do that yoga thing where you're in dancer's pose and you grab your leg with two hands, and you can do that on the ice too.
Yeah, that's called a Bielman. But what I'm saying is,
I can't with you.
I'm not saying it's not a thing.
It.
I'm saying you're not calling it the right thing. It's a thing. I'm sorry. You know what? I won't go ice skating. So.
You're lying to me right now.
Yeah,
I can tell.
I know. Well, right now it's not a lie because right now I might not.
Bah! You're bringing your skates. You're doing it. It's a passion of yours. Okay. All right. Well, hey listener.
Yeah.
Erin's gonna come back, but she can still podcast from a body cast.
Oh yeah.
So that's okay. No worries. And she can also read books with the body cast on.
Yes.
So it's great. It's great.
Maybe that's what I'll do while they're ice skating.
Hobby.
I'll read our next book.
Okay. All right. So find us on all the social media platforms. We are now publishing a list of everything we're reading at the beginning of the month so that you actually have time to read them, because we got some listener feedback that 3 days wasn't enough time, and I'm like,
it's bullshit.
I mean,
it's bullshit.
Ugh,
if we're gonna do it, you
needy.
Can do it.
You guys are so needy. No, that's that we were being dicks.
No, that's good input.
Yeah. So we are publishing a whole list at the beginning of each month. So keep being a badass. And
oof.
Love yourself as much as you love 2 thrusts and a shudder with a beast.
Perfect. All right. Well, this 4 hours has been great.
Yes, it has been. Okay. Bye.
Hey, you. Yes, listener, you. Are you loving the show? If so, please leave a rating and review in your podcast app. The 90 seconds you take to say something nice not only helps new people find the show, but it makes me super smile over at HBHQ. Also, I've had a few people ask, and the answer is yes. We are still doing the 5-star bribe. If you leave us a review with 5 stars, then we'll do whatever book you want. We're real deep into the list, though, so it might be a while. Lilas! Okay, back to the show.